There comes a moment in every person's life when they stand face to face with a question that determines everything. Am I truly becoming the person I was meant to be, or am I ignoring the very things that could make me great? Most people never stop to ask this. They drift, they wish, they hope, but the truth is, wishing never made anyone successful. It is what we decide to focus on, what we choose to ignore, and what we commit to every single day that writes the story of who we become. Clarity of vision is the starting point of all achievement, yet it is the very thing most people overlook. Too many individuals live their lives without truly knowing where they are headed. They wake up each day, go through the motions, and hope that somehow in some way life will carry them to the destination they dream of. But life does not work like that. The world rewards direction, not confusion. Without clarity, you are like a ship without a compass, drifting wherever the current takes you, often to places you never intended to go. The person you dream of becoming does not appear by accident. That version of yourself already exists in your imagination, but imagination alone is not enough. You must define it. You must ask yourself the hard questions. Who do I want to be? What qualities should I develop? What values do I refuse to compromise on? Until you answer those questions with precision, your effort will be scattered and your energy wasted. Clarity transforms vague wishes into concrete goals. It gives shape to your future and meaning to your present. Consider how powerful clarity truly is. A student who knows they want to be a doctor studies differently from a student who is just going to school. A leader who knows they want to inspire millions leads differently from someone simply managing people. When the vision is clear, every step gains purpose. Every decision becomes easier, because you are no longer guessing, you are measuring your choices against the person you want to become. Without clarity, life becomes a series of distractions. With clarity, life becomes a mission. Clarity also breeds focus. In a world full of noise, distractions, and endless opportunities, most people drown in options. They chase one idea today and abandon it tomorrow. They live in cycles of starting and stopping, never finishing what they began. Why? Because they lack clarity. When you know where you are going, you stop chasing everything. You start eliminating. You develop the power to say no to what doesn't serve your future. This is not about doing more. It is about doing what matters most. Yet clarity requires honesty. You cannot lie to yourself about who you are or where you are headed. Too many people settle for the easy answer. They say they want success, but they do not define what success actually means to them. They say they want happiness, but they never ask what kind of life would make them feel alive. Clarity demands that you confront yourself. It requires that you strip away the borrowed dreams of others and decide what is truly yours. Only then can you walk confidently in your own direction. Clarity is also a source of strength in difficult times. When challenges come, and they will, it is the clarity of your vision that keeps you standing. When fatigue whispers to quit, when failure mocks your effort, when doubt clouds your mind, it is the clear picture of your desired future that fuels persistence. Without clarity, the smallest obstacle can derail you. With clarity, even mountains become steps in your path. Think about those who achieved greatness in any field: science, business, art, leadership. They all had one thing in common: a clear vision of what they wanted to accomplish. They might not have known every step of the way, but they knew the direction. That clarity guided their learning, their actions, their sacrifices, and ultimately their achievements. It is no different for you. Your dream version of yourself is waiting, but it can only be reached if you first decide exactly who that person is. Every day you live without clarity is a day wasted in confusion. Every day you refine your vision is a day invested in your future. The question is simple: will you drift or will you direct? Will you continue hoping that life somehow takes you where you want to go, or will you take the time to clearly define your destination? Because until you gain clarity, you'll never have the focus, the discipline, or the conviction to become the person you dream of. And the truth is, the moment you decide who you want to be, life begins to align itself in ways that seem almost miraculous. That is the power of clarity. It is the seed of destiny, and it is waiting for you to plant it today. The power of daily habits is the invisible hand that shapes the person you are becoming, whether you recognize it or not. Most people think success is built on sudden breakthroughs or extraordinary opportunities, but in truth, it is built in the quiet repetition of small actions, carried out day after day. After summer, Christopher Hinley. I need your permission to personally deliver. Your habits are like seeds planted in the soil of time. They may appear insignificant in the moment, but given enough consistency, they grow into towering trees that define the landscape of your life. Every choice you make, from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed, is a stroke on the canvas of the future version of yourself. When you study those who have achieved greatness, you will notice that it wasn't one grand act that separated them, but rather the steady pattern of disciplined habits. The writer who produces masterpieces is not struck by sudden inspiration, but sits down to write every single day. The athlete who seems unstoppable did not become so by luck, but by training relentlessly, even when no one was watching. The entrepreneur who built something lasting didn't do it overnight, but through years of showing up, learning, adjusting, and persisting. The truth is, excellence is not an act, it is a habit. The challenge with habits is their quiet nature. They do not demand your attention. They whisper rather than shout. Eating one unhealthy meal will not destroy you, just as reading one book will not transform your life. But repeated over time, those small choices accumulate into outcomes too large to ignore. A single drop of water cannot carve a stone, but drops falling for centuries shape valleys. In the same way, your habits, no matter how small, are constantly shaping you. The danger lies in dismissing their importance because they seem too ordinary. Yet it is the ordinary, repeated, consistently, that creates the extraordinary. The mind also adapts to habits in ways most people underestimate. Every action you repeat strengthens a pattern in your brain. Over time, this pattern becomes automatic, almost effortless. That's why habits are powerful. They don't just determine what you do, they eventually determine who you are. If you rise early every morning to work on your goals, your identity becomes one of discipline and purpose. If you repeatedly procrastinate, your identity molds itself around delay and regret. The mind is clay, and habits are the hands that shape it. It's important to recognize that habits work both for you and against you. They can be your greatest ally or your most destructive enemy. The habit of gratitude brings joy, while the habit of complaint invites misery. The habit of saving builds wealth, while the habit of spending recklessly builds debt. The habit of studying deepens wisdom, while the habit of ignoring learning leads to stagnation. Each choice builds momentum in one direction or another, and that momentum eventually defines your destiny. The great secret is that you do not need to change your entire life overnight. Transformation is not about making massive leaps. It is about small, consistent steps. Replace one unhelpful habit with one helpful habit. Swap an hour of distraction for an hour of learning. Trade aimless scrolling for intentional reflection. These changes may feel insignificant at first, but given time, they alter the trajectory of your entire future. Just as a plane shifted by a single degree will eventually land in a completely different country, a small change in habit today can place you in a completely different life tomorrow. The person you dream of becoming is not built by occasional bursts of effort, but by daily commitment to the right habits. This is why the power of habits should never be ignored. They are not just part of your life, they are your life. They are the invisible architects of your future, chiseling away at who you are until one day you wake up and realize you have become the very person you envision. Self-discipline is the invisible thread that holds the tapestry of success together. Without it, even the most beautiful vision unravels. People often believe that talent, luck, or opportunity are the deciding factors in reaching the life they dream of, but history and human nature prove otherwise. The real difference lies in the ability to govern one's own actions, to resist immediate pleasures for long-term rewards, and to follow through on commitments even when the feeling to do so fades. Discipline is not glamorous, it is not always celebrated, but it is the single factor that separates those who only dream from those who actually achieve. When you think of the person you aspire to become, it is easy to imagine the end result, the success, the freedom, the respect, the fulfillment. What is harder to see are the countless daily decisions required to build that version of yourself. Self-discipline is choosing to work on your craft when no one is watching. It is reading when you feel like scrolling, practicing when you feel like resting, and showing up when excuses whisper louder than motivation. It is a quiet force, rarely noticed in the moment, but impossible to ignore in its results. Every act of discipline lays a brick on the road to your future self. Without those bricks, your dream remains a drawing on paper, never to become a structure you can live in. Consider the way water cuts through stone, not in a single rush, but drop by drop, consistently and without pause. That is the nature of discipline. Each act may feel small, but repeated over time, it reshapes the landscape of your life. A disciplined mind wakes up with intention, chooses habits with purpose, and stays the course regardless of circumstance. Those who lack discipline wake up each day reacting to life, moving wherever the wind blows, and wondering why their goals feel so far away. The difference is not intelligence or ability, but the presence or absence of discipline. The greatest danger of ignoring discipline is not the mistakes you make today, but the future you forfeit tomorrow. Dreams have a shelf life. Opportunities come and go. Time does not pause for hesitation. Each day you neglect the practice of discipline, you move further from the person you could have been. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you want to be. And the longer you refuse to cross it, the wider the gap grows. Many people look back on their lives not burdened by what they tried and failed to do, but haunted by what they never disciplined themselves enough to attempt. Discipline is not about punishment or restriction, it is about freedom. The freedom to live life on your terms, to walk into opportunities prepared, to shape your days instead of being shaped by them. Without discipline, you are a prisoner to your moods, to laziness, to distraction. With discipline, you gain control over your future because you learn to do what is necessary, not just what is convenient. And in that control, you find power. Ultimately, self-discipline is the proof of your seriousness about becoming who you dream of. Anyone can set goals. Anyone can talk about what they desire. But only those willing to govern their own actions, to push through resistance, and to remain consistent despite setbacks, will see those dreams come alive. Discipline is not a talent, it is a choice, renewed every day. And in that choice lies the difference between a life of regret and a life of fulfillment. If you are not intentionally growing, you are unconsciously declining. Life never allows us to stay in one place. Every single day we are either moving closer to who we want to be or further away. The idea of staying the same is an illusion, because time is always pushing us forward. The question is, forward toward what? Growth must be a deliberate choice. It must be something you decide upon every morning. Otherwise, the natural pull of comfort and ease will drag you backward. Many people underestimate this truth. They think that ignoring growth is harmless, that tomorrow will always give them another chance. But what they don't realize is that each day of neglect plants seeds of regret that will grow stronger roots with time. Growth is uncomfortable by design. It demands stretching beyond what feels natural, forcing us to challenge old beliefs and insisting that we confront the very habits that have kept us small. It's easy to avoid. It's easy to say, "I'll work on myself later." But while you delay, time doesn't delay. Life doesn't wait for you to be ready. Opportunities will pass by, doors will close, and people who are willing to grow will move ahead of you. Ignoring growth is not just standing still, it's falling behind. Because the world is always evolving, and if you don't evolve with it, you are choosing irrelevance. The danger lies in subtlety. You don't wake up one morning and suddenly find yourself failing. Decline is quiet. It happens when you say yes to distractions instead of learning. It happens when you choose the comfort of entertainment over the discipline of improvement. It happens when you let your mind stay stagnant instead of feeding it with knowledge and vision. Small compromises pile up until one day you realize you are far from the person you once imagined you'd be. That is the silent consequence of ignoring growth. But intentional growth works the same way in the opposite direction. Just as decline is gradual, so is progress. Reading 10 pages today may not change your life instantly, but repeated over weeks and months, it reshapes your thinking. Practicing a skill daily might feel slow at first, but over time it builds mastery. Saying no to distractions in favor of focus may feel like a small decision, but each one adds up, strengthening your character, sharpening your mind, and aligning your life with the vision of who you want to become. Growth compounds quietly, but its results speak loudly. To avoid growth is to choose comfort. To pursue growth is to embrace discomfort. And that is the test most people fail. Comfort feels good in the moment, but it is an enemy of the future. Growth feels difficult in the moment, but it is a friend of destiny. Every breakthrough you desire lies on the other side of discomfort. Every new level of life demands a new version of you, and that new version will not be created if you cling to who you are today. If you resist change, you resist your own progress. What many fail to understand is that ignoring growth isn't neutral. It's costly. It costs you your confidence because the less you grow, the less prepared you feel for life's challenges. It costs you your opportunities because without growth you won't have the skills or courage to seize them. And most painfully, it costs you your fulfillment because deep down you will always know you settled for less than you were capable of becoming. Growth must be chosen every day. It doesn't require giant leaps. It requires consistent steps. It requires deciding that every day will not pass wasted. It requires looking at yourself with honesty and asking, what can I do today to become better than I was yesterday? The answer will never be comfortable, but it will always be necessary. And if you keep choosing that path, choosing growth instead of decline, you will one day look back and realize that you did not ignore the call to rise higher. You answered it, and in doing so, you became the person you always dreamed of being. The people you choose to surround yourself with shape the direction of your life far more than you realize. Every conversation, every shared idea, every small interaction leaves an imprint on your thinking. Over time, those imprints accumulate and either push you closer to the person you want to become or slowly pull you away from it. The environment you live in is not just the physical space around you. It is the collection of influences, beliefs, and habits you absorb daily. And if you ignore this truth, you will never fully become the person you dream of being. Consider how much of what you believe, what you strive for, and even what you fear has been absorbed from the voices of others. The books you read, the media you consume, the company you keep. These are not passive experiences. They are active forces, shaping your mindset and defining your limits. If you are surrounded by people who constantly complain, who see obstacles instead of opportunities, who settle for mediocrity, it becomes increasingly difficult to rise above that atmosphere. Even if you have ambition, their words and actions create a silent gravity that keeps you anchored where they are. On the other hand, when you place yourself in an environment where excellence is normal, where growth is expected, and where people speak in terms of solutions rather than problems, you cannot help but be pulled upward. The simple act of being around those who are striving, learning, and improving creates a current of progress that carries you forward. You begin to think differently. Your standards rise. Your dreams, once small and fragile, expand into something larger because you see them reflected in the lives of those around you. This is why great thinkers throughout history have stressed the importance of choosing your company wisely. Success is not built in isolation. It is nurtured in an environment where possibility is encouraged. If your surroundings do not challenge you, they will eventually limit you. If the people in your life are not growing, they will resist your growth, whether consciously or unconsciously. And this resistance can be subtle. It may not come in the form of open discouragement. Sometimes it comes in the form of quiet doubt, small jokes, or subtle reminders of the way things usually are. Without realizing it, you may begin to lower your standards to match theirs. The truth is, your environment is either a garden or a prison. In a garden, ideas grow freely, effort is rewarded, and progress is cultivated. In a prison, energy is drained, hope is stifled, and the same cycles repeat endlessly. The question you must ask yourself is, which one have I chosen to live in? Because whether by design or neglect, you are always inside one or the other. But remember, your environment is not fixed. You have the power to create it. You can choose the voices you listen to. You can decide what books fill your shelves, what conversations you engage in, and which people you spend your precious time with. You can build an atmosphere that inspires you rather than drains you. Sometimes this requires difficult choices, distancing yourself from relationships that hold you back, replacing idle entertainment with learning, seeking mentors who embody the qualities you desire. These decisions are not always comfortable, but they are necessary. You cannot expect to rise to greatness if you are constantly surrounded by mediocrity. The air you breathe, the words you hear, the energy you absorb, it all matters. To ignore the role of environment is to ignore one of the most powerful forces shaping your destiny. And when you finally realize that every great achievement was born not just from personal effort, but from an atmosphere that nourished it, you will understand the importance of building your own. If you dream of becoming someone greater, then guard your environment as carefully as you would guard your future, for in truth, they are the same thing. Time is the one resource every human being receives in equal measure, 24 hours, no more, no less. And yet, what separates those who achieve greatness from those who remain in mediocrity is not intelligence, not opportunity, not even luck. It is how they use that time. Every wasted day, every hour given to meaningless distraction, every moment traded for comfort instead of progress is a piece of the future surrendered, never to be reclaimed. You see, time is not simply passing, it is life itself, slipping silently from your grasp. When you ignore this truth, you don't just lose hours, you lose pieces of the person you could have become. Most people live as if time is unlimited. They push their dreams to tomorrow, their efforts to next week, their discipline to some distant day when they feel ready. But tomorrow is never guaranteed. The clock is always ticking, and whether you act or not, it will keep moving. The successful understand this. They treat time as their most valuable possession, not something to spend carelessly, but something to invest wisely. Each day becomes a building block, a chance to move one step closer to the vision they hold in their hearts. Think for a moment about the person you dream of becoming. Stronger, wiser, more disciplined, more accomplished. That version of you does not exist in the future by accident. It is shaped by what you do today. When you spend hours scrolling mindlessly, when you indulge in procrastination, when you delay the difficult work of growth, you are not just wasting time, you are building habits of waste. And habits become character. Over weeks, months, and years, these invisible choices carve the path of your destiny. The truth is, time is both your greatest enemy and your greatest ally. It will work against you if you ignore it, but it will multiply your efforts if you respect it. A single hour of focused work every day may not seem like much, but imagine the power of compounding. Read one book a month, and in 5 years you've read 60. Practice your craft for an hour daily, and in a decade, you'll surpass those who never began. Small, consistent use of time creates results that seem miraculous to those who squander theirs. People often say, "I don't have time," but the reality is not that they lack time, it is that they fail to prioritize. The same hours are given to everyone, but only a few guard them with the seriousness they deserve. If your dream matters to you, your schedule will reflect it. If your growth is important, your daily choices will prove it. The excuses we make about time are simply illusions to protect us from responsibility. Ask yourself, how much of your day is aligned with your vision? How much of it is poured into becoming the person you claim you want to be? If the answer is little, then it is no wonder progress feels distant. The person you dream of becoming is waiting, but they are built one day at a time, one choice at a time. You cannot borrow from the future. You cannot reclaim the past. You only have now, and now is more than enough if you use it wisely. The difference between an ordinary life and an extraordinary one lies in what you choose to do with the hours that everyone else wastes. Guard your time. Protect it fiercely. Direct it toward growth, learning, discipline, and action. For in the end, time is not just something you manage, it is the essence of who you become. And if you ignore it, you will wake one day not as the person you dreamed of, but as the person who dreamed and never acted. Belief is the hidden engine that drives every human achievement. Nothing ever begins until someone believes it can be done. History is filled with examples of men and women who had no resources, no certainty, no clear path. Yet they achieved the extraordinary because they carried within themselves a belief strong enough to overcome doubt, fear, and circumstance. Belief is not just an attitude. It is the foundation of action. You cannot build a skyscraper on sand, and you cannot build a meaningful life on disbelief. The limits of your belief will always be the limits of your life. When you dream of becoming someone greater, the first and most important step is to believe it's possible. Without that, discipline has no meaning, plans hold no weight, and effort becomes a hollow act. A person who secretly doubts their dream will eventually sabotage their own progress, often without even realizing it. They hesitate, they procrastinate, they give up at the first sign of resistance, not because they lack talent or opportunity, but because deep down they never believed they could reach the summit they were climbing toward. Belief is a lens. It colors the way you see the world. A person who believes in possibilities sees obstacles as challenges, setbacks as lessons, and failure as feedback. But a person who does not believe sees obstacles as walls, setbacks as proof they should quit, and failure as confirmation that they were never meant for more. Two people can face the exact same challenge. One gives up, the other grows stronger. The difference is belief. This does not mean belief is blind optimism. It is not pretending the path will be easy. True belief acknowledges the difficulty but chooses to press forward anyway. It accepts that sacrifice, struggle, and hardship are part of the price of greatness, and it says, "Even so, I will continue." Belief gives strength when motivation fades. It carries you when the applause is gone, when no one is watching, when the results are still invisible. It is the inner voice whispering, "Keep going, you're closer than you think." Think of every great invention, every breakthrough, every masterpiece in history. Before it existed, it lived only in the mind of someone who believed it was possible. Airplanes, electricity, medicine, technology, all of these were once laughed at, dismissed, and called impossible. But those who believed turned the impossible into the inevitable. What the world calls unrealistic today often becomes reality tomorrow, but only because someone dared to believe first. You must be careful, though, because belief works both ways. Just as believing in possibility empowers you, believing in limitation will imprison you. If you believe you are not smart enough, strong enough, or worthy enough, you will unconsciously live according to those beliefs. You will shrink your actions to fit your self-impeach. You will refuse opportunities because you assume they belong to someone else. The mind will always work to prove itself right, whether in belief or disbelief. This is why it is not enough to dream vaguely about success. You must cultivate belief daily. You must remind yourself of what is possible, feed your mind with inspiration, surround yourself with examples of achievement, and condition your thoughts until belief becomes natural. At first, belief may feel fragile. You may doubt, question, or slip back into old thinking. But with persistence, belief strengthens. The more you act on it, the more evidence you create for yourself, and slowly the belief that once felt impossible becomes undeniable. When you truly believe, action flows naturally. You stop asking, "What if I fail?" and start asking, "What if I succeed?" You stop waiting for permission and begin creating opportunities. Belief fuels courage, and courage fuels results. And with every result, belief grows stronger, creating a cycle that lifts you higher than you thought you could climb. In the end, the difference between the person you are and the person you dream of becoming is belief. Not talent, not luck, not circumstance, but the willingness to believe in possibility before the world shows you evidence. Because the truth is, the evidence comes after the belief, not before. If you can believe, truly believe, that the life you want is possible, then you have already taken the first step toward making it real. Everything else follows. Dreams are powerful. They paint pictures in our minds of the life we wish to live, the person we hope to become, and the difference we want to make. But a dream without action is like a seed never planted. It carries potential, but it will never bear fruit. Too many people spend their lives imagining what they could do, talking about what they might achieve, and convincing themselves that tomorrow will be the day they finally start. Tomorrow becomes next week becomes next year, and before they know it, life has passed them by while their dreams remained locked inside their imagination. The truth is simple. If you do not act, nothing changes. Action is the force that transforms the unseen into the seen. It is the bridge between thought and reality, between vision and accomplishment. When you decide to move, even with small steps, the dream that once lived only in your mind begins to take shape in the world around you. The book that is written one page at a time, the business that starts with a single phone call, the skill that is built through daily practice. These are all examples of action turning intention into substance. Yet people hesitate. They wait for the perfect time, the perfect plan, or the perfect conditions. But perfection is an illusion. The only perfect time to act is now. Every great achievement began with someone willing to start before they felt ready. They understood that clarity does not come from sitting still and waiting. It comes from moving forward, from doing, from learning in the process. Action creates momentum, and momentum creates progress. The moment you take a step, even a small one, the world begins to respond. Doors you never noticed before begin to open. People you never expected to meet suddenly cross your path. Opportunities that once seemed invisible come into view. But none of these things happen until you act. There is also a quiet danger in delaying action. The longer you wait, the stronger fear becomes. Procrastination is not just the theft of time. It is the slow erosion of belief. When you tell yourself, "Not yet," enough times, you start to believe that you are not capable, not ready, not worthy, and soon the dream itself feels out of reach, not because it was impossible, but because you never had the courage to move toward it. Action then is not just about progress. It is about protecting your confidence, preserving your belief, and proving to yourself that you are capable of growth. Action also separates the dreamers from the doers. Talking about goals feels good. It tricks the mind into thinking progress is being made, but the satisfaction of talk is short-lived. True fulfillment comes from results, and results come only through work. The person who dreams without action will always look at others with envy, wondering why success seems to find them. The answer is simple. Success does not arrive. It is built brick by brick through consistent effort. Yet action does not mean reckless movement. It does not mean doing everything at once or forcing progress in an instant. It means choosing one step, however small, and taking it with intention. The person who commits to daily action, no matter how modest, will always outpace the person who waits for the grand moment to begin. Over time, small steps accumulate into great leaps. The habits of action compound into a character of discipline, and discipline creates transformation. At the core, the difference between the person you are today and the person you dream of becoming lies in whether you act or remain still. The dream will remain a dream until your hands, your voice, your mind, and your heart commit to shaping it into reality. So do not wait for permission, do not wait for perfection, do not wait for someday. Start now, move now, do now. Because the life you dream of will not come to you. You must go to it. And every action you take is a step toward that person you've always known you could be.